All right. So we created our floors, right? And when we create our floors in Revit, we go into sketch mode and you draw the boundary of your floor, right? And we somewhat talked about how to create, you know, a hole in your floor for like your stairs. One thing I want to talk about is floor types, and then I just want to talk about offsetting your floors, okay? So if I select my floor here, and I'll just like kind of go backwards a little bit. When we first talked about this, I talked about it like a horizontal wall, right? Which is really how it functions essentially. So instead of having, you know, like with the wall, we have a top and we have a base constraint. The constraint of, you know, the boundary is controlled with a sketch, right? But we still have a floor assembly that we have to define. And we also have kind of a height, like a top offset and a bottom offset that we can deal with. Or I guess really just a top offset. If I select the floor and I look over here in properties, right, we see that this is associated with main level, right, which is our first level. Right underneath that, you're going to see height offset from level, right, and this will be useful. I'm going to do a thin lines if I needed to hike my floor up just a tiny bit, right? So, bless you. So if I needed this floor to come up above that main level data, maybe 2 inches, right? I'd select the level or the floor, I'd click on height offset, and I'd input 2 inches, and that floor would bump up 2 inches. Okay. Now I'm going to click on this floor, and I'm going to hit edit type. And I'm going to hit edit again. This look familiar, right? So we have the same type of definition with a floor that we do a wall, right? We have the core boundary where you need structure, and then we have the finish here. Okay, so in this case we have wood 9 1/4 inch wood joists, we have 3/4 inch plywood on top of that, and then we have, looks like a 1/2 inch of concrete, or probably the mortar bed, concrete, well it's defined as concrete, and tile.
Sorry, I went with carpet.
You went, yes. Okay. Now, in this view, I'm only seeing one kind of fundamental bulk that shows the floor, right? If I come down here to my coarseness level and I change that to medium or fine, I start to see all the different levels of the wall, okay? One question that I have been asked about floors is, so, and I don't remember if everybody was here when we talked about it, so I'll just say it again. So, you know, we have this floor, and how do we deal with the finishes on top, okay? And I say that because if I go to my floor plan right now, main level, I guess actually I don't have kind of a, let me change something here real quick. All right, let's see. Okay. Okay. Well, nothing happened. That's odd. Oops. Huh. That's kind of odd. We'll do that, see if that works. There we go. So that hatch wasn't working. But the way that we have created our floor so far is that we have one big piece of flooring, right? And the question is, so my entire floor through the whole house is not mosaic tile, or it's not all wood. Maybe the bedrooms have one material, we've got something in the bathroom, right? We have something in the mudroom, and then we have something in the kitchen and the living room area, right? So how do we make these all separate? How do we illustrate those finishes, right? What's that? I don't know. What's the answer? And the answer is, it's really actually, the answer is kind of up to your office, right? So when you start working somewhere, they will kind of tell you how they go about this, right? But there's really, from, you know, me working at different firms and kind of seeing how, you know, certain places do it, there's really been kind of 2 main ways that we've gone about working with this. Well, I guess 3. The first way is, if your entire floor is all the same finish, then you build the finish into your floor, right? So if everything is wood floors and there's no differentiation between rooms, you just add the wood floor to the top of your structure and you have a wood floor through the whole building. Okay, so answer number 1. If you have, I'm going to shade this, if you have multiple types of flooring and you want to show those on your finish plan, you want to show different hatches illustrating different materials, right? What can be done is you can define this floor. I'm going to hit edit type so that there is not a finish on it. I'm going to delete this finish. I'm going to delete that finish. Okay. And you can just define the core boundary. So we're just going to show the structure essentially in one piece of the floor. Okay. So now I look at this and I have a joist and I have subfloor. Okay, we'll consider that our structural floor, right? And that structural floor, when I grab it, I'm going to take it back to the main level. We won't have an offset. Looks like that. Okay. Now, one way to bring different flooring types into here to, number 1, show pattern, but also to show thickness of material, right? Because the thickness of the material will it will interact with the height of the ceiling. So we need to illustrate something. Okay. So the next way that we can deal with these is going to the main level and creating individual floors in all the spaces on top of the structural floor, right? So the structural floor will be one big piece, and then we'll come in after the fact and we'll click on floor, architectural, and we will draw another little floor, for example. Exactly, yep. And a lot of times I'll take it out to the threshold, right? Kind of mid-wall like that. SL split. Click, trim, TR, right? And I'll come over here to my, my properties dialog box, and I will find that I don't have the type of flooring I want. So I'm going to click on one that has something similar to what I want, maybe a wood finish. Edit, duplicate, we'll call this maybe 3/4 inch wood floor. Okay, hit edit. And instead of having the plywood sheathing and the wood joist rafter, I'm going to hit delete, delete. Oh, well, let me delete that one out. Will it? No. I'm going to move my finish down into the structural core and get rid of my structure. Delete. You're thinking, well, can oak flooring be structure? Well, it doesn't really matter, right? It's a structure for this floor. Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to change this instead of finish to structure, because if I don't, then Revit will scream at me. What are you doing, right? So oak flooring, no, it's not deck though. Hold on. It's structure, sorry. And it's going to be 3/4 inch thick. So I hit OK. I hit OK. You know, I've sketched the boundary of my floor. I hit finish. Okay. And in that one room, I have that finish, right? And if I go into my sectional view, it's very fancy. Where is it in my structural view? Ah, tricky. Okay. It's just kind of, it's resting at main level. So what we need to do in this case, right, I need to offset it 3/4 inch. Oop. There we go. Okay, so there's my wood floor right there.
Because it was sitting in.
Yeah, so it generates right at main level and sinks down in. Yep. Okay. So there's one. We'll do one more. Let's say we want to add some tile over here, right? So I go to floor. Okay. And I click on my rectangle and I draw my floor in here. Or actually, I think I'm going to maybe use my line tool. Okay. What's that? Trimming was just too much for me. Got to show off my skill set in Revit here, right? I can see I can also draw lines, people. And there is my floor. But instead of being a wood floor, I'm going to hit edit type, duplicate, and let's make this tile. Maybe we'll say it's, 6 by 6 tile. Okay, so I'm going to hit edit, and we'll change this to tile. Let's see what we have here. Oh, no, never mind. We'll do VCT. Just kidding, it's gonna be 12 inch. We're just gonna leave that. And maybe this becomes a 1-inch thickness or whatever you want it to be, right? Okay, okay, finish. And there's my flooring right there. And again, I can grab my section, drag this down here, click, click. And it was it here? Yeah, it was right there. Click on it. It is in line with my floor, so I'm going to offset it 1 inch, and there's my flooring, right? So the really nice thing about this is that when I view these in sectional view, I see the thickness of that floor, right? Which sometimes can be significant, right? So wood flooring and tile and stone, they can have a pretty good thickness to them, and that can bring the ceiling height down, right? So it's good to have them in there so that you can see how they interact with the ceiling, right? So there's a plus. What I like about them on the floor plan is that I can view the difference in hatch, right? So I see this is a large tile pattern, I see that's a wood floor, and I see this is whatever it is, right? Eventually, when we get to the idea of tagging things, right? Tagging meaning describing what these items are on the floor plan. Floors can be tagged. So I can tag it and I can schedule it, and that makes things really nice, okay? What is very cumbersome about this system is that if I end up coming in here and moving that wall around, well, that didn't really do what I want. I mean, ideally, that is what I would like it to do. Oh, it's doing it, okay. Maybe Revit 2018 has kind of gotten a handle on things, right? But it doesn't always usually work that nicely, right?
It'll leave a nice gap for you to go back.
It does, yes. And so if I move the wall and the floor didn't follow it, you know, it would leave a gap there and it wouldn't look correct in my drawing. So I would essentially have to do double work, go back, hit edit sketch, and then realign it with all the points that had moved, okay? So that's kind of a downfall for using this method. I wish this method worked better because I feel like it's a better method. I really do. The second method that is used, and this is something we're not going to illustrate, but I'll just tell you, is when we are, let me come in here and just show you a room, okay? I'm going to click on room. This is how we add rooms to Revit. Click, there's a room, right? Yep, isn't that magical? Okay, there's a bedroom.
What?
I know. Those of you that have used AutoCAD, right? We all know how great it is. So what's really interesting about this idea is that I have just assigned a room. Which room was it? Let's see. Wasn't it this one? Did I delete it on accident? No, it's there. Well, let's see if I can grab it. Hold on. When I create a room in Revit, it creates a volumetric space. Like it's an invisible space, right? But it creates a volumetric invisible space. So that X that I have chosen is the actual room in Revit. And what's nice about rooms in Revit is that they have a volume, they have a height, the width, you know, they have a boundary. They have properties you can assign to them. So things like if you're doing an occupancy or a code plan, right? I can assign an occupancy to that. I can assign a finish. I can assign a north, south, east, or west paint wall, right? So if we want to schedule finishes, we can do that. We can also assign a floor finish to the quote room, right? This is somewhat of a workaround. So I can assign that finish, the floor finish, to the room, and then I can add what's called a color legend. And the color legend will read that that room has carpet, and it will show a pattern, right? But the pattern is invisible in section. So this is kind of a workaround where on a finished floor plan, I can show the finish, right? And because it's assigned to the room, the finish, essentially, even if one of these boundaries is changed, the room always follows. It's really killing me that that floor is going with it because it's never that easy, right? But that room boundary always follows where those walls go. And so it's very, when you update things in Revit, the room always updates, right? And it shows the pattern where it needs to, and there's no going back and coordinating, essentially, right? But again, that doesn't show a thickness. It just kind of is a faux representation of that material in there, okay? So you'll have to account for the ceiling height. But this is the second way that we sort of represent that. You know, different offices, different standards, different way of doing things, okay? But that's going to be ways that you can represent your floors. And I don't really care at this point if you want to add another type of floor. I don't really care how you go about it, okay? All right, let's see here. Maybe I need to.
So when you're putting your floor in, if it has the finish built in, you're doing it out to the further, and your interior walls are interacting with that, like will it automatically cut out the finished floor from your walls? See what I'm saying?
Does one overlap the other? Is that what you're asking? Yeah, they don't overlap. One cuts out the other. Yep. There's the room and sectional view right there, right? So you can see that when I select it, it tells me that it's 10 feet tall, it looks like, and it's associated with the main level. It has a number and a name, right? And so this is useful, not maybe for us other than assigning information to it, but for other professionals that use the volume of the room, right? Like engineers or other people, you know, like mechanical people. All right, so there is, that's floors. Okay, you'll remember how to cut holes in floors, right? Okay. What's that?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and watch the video.
I'm sorry, I
I'll
can't.
go back and watch the video.
Oh, okay. Cutting holes in floors?
Yeah.
Should we can do one real quick?
Yeah, let's do it real quick.
Yeah? Because Aaron doesn't remember.
Sorry, guys.
All right, if I click on the floor and I hit edit boundary, okay, my sketch comes back up, right? And you all remember that floors.
Can I get to grab the floor from that?
Oh, you know, again, so when you're trying to grab the floor, it is really boundary. It's very boundary sensitive, and so you'll have to come very close to the boundary. Tab. See down there it says my floor. Click. And you have to get used to the idea that you don't actually see it selecting it. It's like I'm touching the wall, right? But tab, click.
Yeah, I can't get it.
No? Okay.
I don't know how mine either.
Yeah, I mean, it cycles through different things in the wall, but it's
Yeah.
not even bringing that one up.
Go by a
So-
door. Go by a door. Tab.
I would go to a section and click on it to do.
So like,
That's
well,
not-
So I just
yeah.
been going to the section and clicking on it. And
Yep.
How do you go back to the main?
So if
Boundary.
what's
Oh,
that?
because when I click on edit boundary, it says you're retarded and you're in the wrong view.
Here you go. Go back to the floor plan. Go back to the floor plan. Yep. So it'll take you back to the
Okay.
floor plan. There you go. Okay. But you know, you're not the only one though. It is kind of tricky. So if I click on the floor and I hit edit boundary, right, it brings me into sketch mode. And we can draw the boundary of the floor. Okay. So if I want to create an opening in the floor, like for stairs or probably not an elevator. We'll talk about elevators later, but elevators, we use a different tool to create openings from floor to floor. But I can come up here to use my rectangle, right? And I can create a closed region within a closed region. And what that does is it creates an opening, essentially, right? So if I hit finish here now, right, there's an opening and there's an opening. Okay.
Kitchen just got interesting.
The kitchen just got really interesting. Yeah, there you go, right?
Be real careful doing those dishes.
Our floor highlighted.
I decided for boundary. You come to edit boundary.
Oh, no, that's something else. Yes. What's that?
I've got it highlighted, but I don't see
Click on that green tab.
this one.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay. I'm in the game.
Yep.
Oh, and then you showed us how to get the lower area too. Where was that one at?
The lower area.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, to show, yes.
Underlay.
The underlay. Yep. So if you come over here to properties, right, and you want to see kind of an outline or a ghosting in of the the level below you or up above you, you'll come here to underlay and you'll choose basement.
When I asked you, would you like the walls that go up to this floor's level to attach to its bottom?
I would say no.
Oh, I think you got me.
Yeah. So what that means, when you finish the floor, let me see if I can get it to do it for me. Edit boundary, and then I hit finish. It says, would you like the walls that go up to this floor level to attach to its bottom, right? And I always say no. And I say no because what that is asking you to do is, let me draw a wall here real quick. Hold on. In the basement. Let me show you what that means. Okay, I'm going to grab this one. We're going to create that, and we are going to go like this. There we go. And then I'm going to go back into my section and look at it. But essentially what that is saying is is, hey, would you like to take this wall and would you like to override its top constraint, right? And would you like to attach it to the bottom of your floor instead, right? And in your mind, you're probably thinking, well, yeah, that's probably a good idea because, you know, it's always going to come up to the bottom of the floor, right? And generally, yes, that's okay. That's okay. But again, it's a constraint. And we already have our constraint because we've defined it from a bottom level to a top level, right? And so when it does that, it kind of overrides the system we've put in place. And then when you go to move the floor, delete the floor, change the floor, do something else, then the top boundary of that wall is connected to it and it can delete it or move it or do other things to it that you don't want it to do, right? I have a love-hate relationship with constraints in Revit, right? Because at first I was like, wow, look at all, you know, if I attach it here, then when I move the floor, it moves. But then when you don't want them to move with the floor, you're like, oh, okay. So now I have to go in and figure out how to disconnect all of these walls from this floor, right?
So if you've done that, how do you do it?
Well, you'd have to grab it, and I would just drag it down a little, and then I would re-top constrain it to whatever it needs to be, like bottom of joist. Oop, and take that top offset to 0. Well, I've changed something. What have I done there? Oh, okay.
Your floor is not as wide as
I changed my floor. Yeah, there we go. Right. So now I've constrained it to that level, which is in line with the bottom of that joist, right? And it should function. Yep.
I tried the front door and it found it.
Well, oh, you did?
My front
Oh,
door
good.
found it. Yeah,
Okay.
nowhere else in the house is it working.
That's not uncommon.
Good catch. Good
Yep.
catch.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
front door.
All right. So so that is a floor, right? Any questions on floors?
Well, good thing we remembered all
What
that.
about bringing the walls in to match the floor joists or whatever?
The
That little gap in there.
right.
Going over that.
Right. Should we talk about that tonight?
No way. Sounds like that's the next time.
Hold on one second.
Doesn't matter to
After we
you
talk
guys.
about.
Well, let's see. Let me flip the orientation. There we go. Okay, hold on one second. Mine is slightly different. Let me look at my model here real quick and see if I can. So the way that your floor is working, right? Your floors, probably the way you've drawn them is so that they come out a little further, right? They may come kind of out in here,
Yeah,
right?
I left mine like ½ inch off of
Okay.
the exterior.
And so you have kind of a band running around your entire house, right?
Yeah.
Where maybe the finish is going to come down and it's going to cover that, right? Okay, so mine doesn't, let me see if I can, let's do this. Let me change my floor right here. Let's change that. So edit boundary. Okay. Here we go. I think I'm looking on the right side. We'll do this too. There we go. All right, looks good. Okay. So you've got this gap right here, right? Because your floor joists are coming out to here and your plywood's going to come down, right? And we want this finish to come down and kind of fill in that gap,
Yeah.
right? So we're going to edit our wall profile to let that happen, okay? So let me show you what that looks like kind of in elevation view. You guys probably have it going on, right? But it looks somewhat like that, okay? And you'll run into that a lot, actually. So what we're going to do here is we're going to click on our wall type, and I want to show you something first. You're going to notice that our wall type has a grip here at the bottom. And if I click on that grip and drag it, I can drag it down.
Oh, that's way easy.
It's easy, but it's not right, okay?
Oh, now that I've already done it.
It's okay. It's okay. It's
Control
easy.
C.
Undo.
Control C.
And it's not right because your 2x4 stud wall is not going to come down through your floor joist and sit like that, right? It's going to sit up on top. And so I'm going to hit undo, and I'm going to click on my wall, and I'm going to hit edit type over here, edit type. Right? And I'm going to hit edit structure right here. And I'm going to click on preview. And so I've somewhat expanded my edit assembly dialog box here. And this is a plan view of my wall right now. Okay. If I click down here and I choose section, here's a sectional view of my wall. All right. Let me just tell you, we're going to edit a few things in here to give our wall, take some constraints away from our wall so we can edit the top and bottom constraints of all of the pieces of it separately. This dialog box is a little bit finicky, okay? I feel like it's one of the most frustrating things in Revit when I come in here and I make a lot of kind of custom edits to my wall. If I'm in here and I'm doing things and I get caught up or something, my immediate response, because I've been working in AutoCAD for so long, right, is escape. And when I hit escape, it doesn't say, would you like to save this? Would you like to, you know, please don't undo all of these changes. It just gets out of the box, right? And so I want to just make that point first, that you have to be careful about hitting escape in here, okay? Because it will just kill the whole thing. But what we're going to do is we're going to zoom into the bottom here, and I'm going to click on modify the vertical structure. Modify. This is really, I feel like this is a very counterintuitive thing to do, honestly. But I click on modify, and I'm going to come over here to this piece. There's a line. If I click at the bottom of it, and it can be as thin as this little piece at the bottom of that plywood, right? Or this air gap, or that piece of brick. But if I click on that and I unlock it, the base of that becomes editable separate from the rest of the wall, okay? So I can click on here and just unlock that as well. I'm going to hit OK, OK. And now you'll see I have two grips at the bottom of my wall. I can grab this one and drag it down. Oop, come on. I should have brought my plywood down, right? There you go. Isn't that nice?
I think I gripped the wrong one.
So if you accidentally do the wrong one, undo, or edit type again, edit. You can zoom in here. And it's not super easy to modify either. It's like I can pan around a little bit, but it's not really that easy to navigate. I click on modify again. I can come in here and I can click and lock that if I want so it doesn't move independent, or I could come over here and unlock that one and hit OK, OK. And now when I go back to my section, it's come down with those other three pieces.
So those unlocked portions are still going to be constrained together?
Well, in this case, yes, they are. Maybe because they're all three touching, yes. But if I left a gap in between them, it would leave one and the others would be able to be moved. Yeah, yeah. It is kind of bunching them together now. Does that work? Working over here?
I'm trying to.
Zoom in there.
I don't remember which wall I was working on.
You have to hit modify.
Oh. That's what I'm not doing.
Seriously, I don't know which wall I was working on. I have no
there it is.
idea.
That's a sweet spot.
Which wall, like?
I don't know what I was
Oh,
at.
see, it didn't do it to me that time again either.
Well, you can luckily just click on it again and hit edit and see what you've done.
Oh, there it is.
Did you get it?
In the tiniest wall. See, there's my LP
Do
set.
you have any of your walls pinned?
I picked that one.
Pinned me
I
from.
picked that side last time and it brought it over here. So it's gotta be this side.
I think is your wall the wrong direction?
I don't know.
Because that's gypsum board right there. Right, so the gypsum board's on the inside. So there's your stud, right?
So that's what I wanna pick, this
Okay.
one,
Yeah,
right?
uh-huh.
And that's,
Yep, zoom in there, keep going.
oh, there
Like
you
the
go.
one
There.
wall.
There you go.
Okay.
All right.
Extension layers and basically must be adjacent.
Hold up the rest of this. Hope there's no moisture.
That's what Aaron was just asking about.
Try
So
to get
if you
in.
click on that, like they want pieces that are next to each other. So which one did you check?
This one.
Just that one?
Still gotta
Or another
rely
one?
on it. We're building elsewhere.
So you might have to hit cancel and go back in and do
Oh, there's
structure.
another one over here that I did the first time, but
So that you can just move it that way. I would reattach that one then. There you go.
lock that one back together.
And hit OK.
Okay. Oh, there it is.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So let's get a roof on this little guy, right?
That was way awesome.
It feels complicated, huh?
Well, this whole project is complicated to me. Yeah.
All right. So we have, that's good. You'll find that pretty useful. You'll use it a lot. And so now let's put a roof on this. Okay. Let's see.
What are you doing, Paul?
I'm going to go now to my roof level. Okay. So if I go to main level, right, I've got this main level. I'm just trying to see. I don't think I have a roof level generated actually. I'm going to go back to my elevation. Let's go to my north elevation. Looks like, oh, I have a level 3 that I've generated as a roof plan, right? But I haven't called it roof. So I have my main level, my level 2, and now I have my level 3 here. Okay, so I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to rename that roof. Okay, and I want to, again, just to remind everybody and myself, this is what our roof looks like. Okay,
Not good.
it's not good?
Not good.
It's okay.
It's like 2 different roofs.
It feels like 2 different houses when I kind of look at it from here a little bit. I don't know why. Okay. So let's add a roof. Trying to think. I think I'm going to start with maybe just doing like a hip roof so that we know how to do a hip roof. We'll do a gable, and then we'll kind of sneak over to the, we'll call it the contemporary one slope, right? Shed roof thing we've got going on here. Okay. So I'm going to go to my roof plan. Now, oops, maybe. But before I do that, let me talk about something. So the way that our roof is going to generate, number one, we are going to start drawing our roof in a sketch mode. Okay, so we're gonna draw the boundary of the roof. We're gonna attach a slope to it, and then we're gonna hit finish, and it will generate. Okay. If I were to go to my roof plan and generate my roof on my roof plan, the base of my roof would form here, and then my roof would grow up here. Okay, so really the idea behind calling this level a roof is not to generate the roof on the roof plan, it's to view it, essentially, right? So this level will allow me to basically look down on the roof and show the whole thing, okay? So in actuality, what we will have is at this level 2, and in this case we don't have an actual level 2, so I think I maybe misnamed it. I'm going to call this top of wall. Okay, so this is kind of one of those levels that's similar to bottom of joist, right? So we mark top of wall, which is where your roof structure will be seated, right? And then it will grow up somewhat near the roof level. And then you'll go to the roof level to view it, right? Okay, so I'm going to go to top of wall. Let's see, maybe, click, there we go. And ooh, we've got an extra, whatever that is. I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to delete this. There we go. And I'm going to draw my roof, okay? So I'm going to come up here, and under Architecture tab, over, where are we? There we are. There's my roof. I have a few different types of roofs that I can generate.
Is everybody's highlighted, or is...
What plan are we on?
Mine's pretty blank.
This area is kind of like...
Not so much going on over
I
here
like
on
how
the
you said
screen.
that.
Oh my god, mine's that way too.
Okay, so if you go to, let's go back to your levels. So click on one of your levels. There you go. Your top of wall, you clicked on top of wall, right? Okay, so go back to top of wall.
Mine's blank too.
Oh, okay. I may have, so there's, okay, so again, let me talk about these kind of views. I know what's going on. The way that our views function in Revit, when I'm on the main level, I'm viewing from this point upward. Okay, so if I am at top of wall and I'm looking upward, there's nothing there yet, right? Which means that since I'm looking at top of wall upward, there's also, I'm not viewing anything below, right? So I need to turn you need to turn an underlay on to view the walls below, essentially.
Yeah, Dawn, gosh.
That was really funny though. It's like, there's nothing here. Okay, so if I go to my top of wall, so to get these walls to view, I'm going to choose an underlay, which my underlay will be my main level. So I want to click on main level, and then that shows up. Okay,
Yes.
there you go.
Much
So
better.
we have several types of roofs we can generate. We have a roof by footprint, roof by extrusion. We've got a bunch. We're just really going to worry about roof by footprint today. Okay. When I click on roof by footprint, it's going to bump me back into a sketch mode. Okay. Let me just show you something. This happens a lot. It's not necessarily an error having to do with the roof plan, but if you ever kind of get lost and you're like, wait, I know I'm in sketch mode, but I can't see my roof generation tools. You know, this happens to everybody. If you come back up here and see there's a green highlighted tab and you click on that, it will bring you back into where your tools are. Okay. So I can click on my line tool and I can draw the boundary of my roof, right? I'm in a sketch mode, so I'm going to draw a boundary of my roof. I can use my pick line and I can pick the lines of my roof. Okay. This wall tool is pretty helpful. I can pick a wall and it will pick walls essentially, as opposed to the pick tool, which will pick anything, walls, doors, windows, right? The wall tool will pick walls. Okay. So if I click on, I'm going to use the pick tool for this one to generate my roof sketch, right? I can click on things and create lines. All right. But here's the thing. If I generate a roof that is the exact outline of this, it wouldn't be correct because usually you have an overhang, right? In most houses you have an overhang. So what we're going to do here, if I use the pick tool, I want you all to notice we have an offset option right here. Okay, so if I click on offset and I type in something like 18 inches, 1'6", right? I can pick on a wall, click, and you notice it offsets it that distance, right? So there's my overhang. In this case, we'll just do like a hip roof and we'll just follow the boundary of the roof. Click, click. Make sure you click to the outside of the wall, because if you click to the inside, that won't be right. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna have to trim a little. TR. Click, 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 click. There you go. Okay. So I have the outline of my roof generated. Now I need to specify the slope of it. Okay. You guys, a lot of you probably know this, but we have our little slope. Well, that's kind of a steep. I'll do that, right? The way that slope works, right? You have a certain increment per foot, right? So you could do something like 1 to 12, or 2 to 12, or 3 to 12. Those are going to be roof slopes, right? And what that means is for every 3 inches of rise, I have 12 inches of run, right? For every 1 inch of rise, I have this much run, right? So a 1 to 12 is going to be less, it's going to be less steep, it's going to be more shallow than like a 3 or 4 to a 12, okay? Just for those of you, the beginning design students that may not quite know some of this stuff, right? So 1 to 12 is very low slope, considered flat, right? And a 12-12 is considered, it's, you know, very, very, very steep, okay? This is a slope, this is the slope indicator on this roof sketch that we're generating here. And if I click on this boundary, it pops up with a 912 roof slope. And that's just a default. Revit just puts in a 912 slope by default, okay? If I
Sloping from the center towards that?
It's sloping from the outer boundary, so from the eave up. Does that make sense? Yeah. So if I click on that, I can type 3, enter, and it changes it to 312. Okay. Now each of these individual lines are all sloped. You have to define their slope separately. Okay. Or I can hover over one, tab, click. It looks like I got most of them, but not all of them, right? I can come over here to slope and type 3, enter, and it just changed all of those lines I had selected to a 312. Okay. I still have these few over here that I need to do. So I clicked, control, click. I'm holding control, click. And over here, I'm going to type 3, enter, and it changes those to a 312. Okay. I can also click on a line here, and I want you to notice we have a define slope checkbox over here, right? So that, if I uncheck that, that will undefine the slope of one segment of roof. Okay, and in a minute, we're going to do a hip roof right now, but in a minute we'll do a gable end. The gable end roof is not sloped on 2 ends, and we'll talk about that. So right now I have a roof boundary, and I've defined the slope of all of these to 312. Okay, the base level of this is top of wall, and it will just kind of generate naturally at a 312 slope, and the height will just kind of be what it is, right? When I'm done with my roof, I hit finish, click, and there. This is the best part about Revit. Roof plans are the best, right?
Oh, crap.
I go into 3D.
Mine,
Yours didn't work?
something is open on one end. What does that mean?
Oh, you don't have a closed region, sorry. Roofing sketches need to be closed, just like floor sketches need to be. Yours works. It works, don't worry.
This is,
It works.
Okay, it looks like I won't.
Don't worry, we'll fix it. Zoom back out, and it will show you where it's supposed to be occurring. So hit finish again.
You have to like sign up.
Where's the green? There's the dot, the orange dot. Zoom in there.
It's obviously
Zoom in there.
looking for
I think you would overlap. Click, click, and delete.
Well, they've got blocks and stuff on there.
Just delete the whole thing.
Like, I found
Trim
like
to
the
your-
barn doors and the pocket doors, all that kind of stuff.
There you go.
So they
I
have
gotta go to the other side.
pretty good
Apparently.
stuff.
You have another one?
Yeah, I had one at each end.
Okay.
Apparently I had some trouble. Oh, wait, no, I lied.
Is there included in is all of those joists and all of that is sort of built in?
Where's my 3D house?
Okay.
Well,
So,
I see it's like 12, I mean, it looks like
pocket
it's,
door and it came up just
you know,
it's a 312 and it has a thickness.
there's a thickness to it.
Like a wall with a floor assembly.
Yeah.
But it's not
floating
literally
house.
like you do a section.
I know, right? Look at that.
Got it.
What the hell's going on?
So the thickness.
Dude, that's awesome.
Oh, okay.
Why
Then
is
you
he doing
define
that?
what you want that structure to be.
It doesn't work. It doesn't stop.
That's awesome.
Okay, so here is what's happening with a lot of your roofs probably.
Is your first level not on the top of the wall? I barely got anything.
Let me show you what's going on with your roof. If you go into an elevation, right, what's happening with your roof is that you have your roof level. Well, let me show you what's happening. Hold on. Let me recreate what's
We're
happening.
intrigued because his looks really cool.
This looks really good, right? Top of wall.
It's like an ice cream cone.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty awesome. Thank you.
Let's see.
All one purpose.
Let me see if I can. So yours looks like this, right? So I'm on top of wall. Your roof generated, but it cut the top off, right? Okay. So what's happening there? This is a view range error. Okay. So what's happening is if I go to my view range, you remember over here we have a view range associated with each of our levels.
No.
Okay. You will in a second. Remember this little guy?
Well,
So-
his gap is in the middle.
Right, yes. So what's happening here is this. Let's draw a graphic. So he has his top of wall right here,
Yeah.
right? And his roof, let's say it goes up and it goes this is your roof. I can't even make it symmetrical on the other side.
Is that a mountain
Okay.
peak?
I'm gonna be so sad this isn't on the YouTube later.
I know, right? Okay, so let's just pretend his roof looks like that. Okay, there you go. His roof looks like that. So what's happening, and here's the roof. We'll call this roof, okay? And this is top of wall, right there. So what's happening is his view range in his floor plan is set to 4 feet, a cut of 4 feet. Remember this?
And so it's cutting.
And
it
so
at
it's
the
cutting
top
it
of
at
the
4
roof.
feet.
That's what it is.
Yeah. So essentially what you need to do is you need to extend that view range up so that I've drawn this totally wrong. So your roofing level will be up here,
Yes.
and from your roof, right, you're going to view downward and look at the roof, right? So we have to change your view range to go from your top of wall, and you want to be able to view between these two. right? So your cut essentially will move up here so that you're looking down on your roof and seeing the whole thing.
So can we generate a roof without using the slope, just tell them go from this level to this level, or whatever the slope is?
No, no, that would be a good idea, though. Well, no, let me take that back. You can generate a roof, and then there's a little grip at the top, and you can pull it up and down.
Oh, and then it's gonna override the...
Yes.
Alright, so at this point, what do I have to do to make my roof look like a roof?
How do you view it?
So do trim, TR,
Elevation.
and you're gonna
Go
click
to
there,
your
click there.
Your roof plan.
There you go, and over here, do like, I wouldn't bring it in, I would just click from there to there, and then
Yeah.
little pieces, click,
Properties.
yep, click, and then come to there.
Yeah, you need your properties box.
Yep, just do that. Oh,
Okay.
I mean,
So.
there we go, and let's just get rid of this.
Oh,
And just trim TR.
Yeah, I mean, I just clicked on mine.
okay, so now when I go to my 3D view, it just has a big rod still.
You have to hit finish first.
Check.
Yep.
Okay.
Go. You need to.
Floor plan or?
You either got an overlapping line or a gap, and an overlapping line.
Your.
Yes. It's a weird one, but yes. Okay.
Sweet.
So what we need to do here is on top of wall, right? It's saying, hey, at the top of wall, I want to see from the bottom of top of wall, which is at the level, and I want to see 7 feet 6 above that, but we're going to cut it at, I have it set at a foot. Okay. So what we're going to do instead is we are going to change this from the bottom, which is going to be top of wall. We want to go up to the level above, which is going to be the roof. Okay. And I'm going to specify my offset to be 0, my cut plane at 0. Oh, nope, that didn't work.
So this is your
Just
top
kidding.
of wall plan that you're on?
Yes. Yep. Sorry, sometimes I have to play around. There we go. So my cut plane, I essentially took it up above my roof. It might take you 1 or 2 tries to get it to work. But essentially, you want to see from your top of wall all the way to your roof, and then you need to change your cut plane so that you're not hitting the roof like midway to view it. Okay.
Edit.
Does that make sense, what I did? No?
I'm a slow learner.
No, I'm good. This is tricky. So what's happening here, you grab your view, where's your properties? Where are we here? Oh, like what screen is yours? View range, and we're going to change this. Instead, we'll just make it simple. We'll change your cut here to 7'6", and it may even need to be taller than that, so that instead of slicing it at 4 feet, it slices it at 7'6", which there's nothing to slice, right? So you view the whole thing at that point.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Okay.
Thanks.
View range is tricky. It's one of those things where even now I'm like, I'm just gonna like manipulate it to get it to work. Like inherently I understand it and I generally know where I have to go with it, but sometimes it doesn't function and you just have to work with it until it works. Okay.
Is it still doing it? Stop it, shut up.
Wait, what? Yours is not.
No, he still has a gap.
Who does?
Nobody?
Oh, you don't have a gap. I changed it.
No, it's still.
You do still have a gap?
Yeah, it's still a floating roof.
Still,
Oh, okay. Let me see your answer. Well, okay. We solved one problem, right?
like that one?
No, there was a different problem. You just didn't know it yet.
didn't know it was a different problem.
You also had the problem I had.
Well, here's the
We
thing.
just didn't know it.
So yours is you have an offset.
On the roof or?
That's weird. Base offset. You don't have base offset. Okay, let's see here. Figure it out.
Feb RVT. Nice. $1 for that. Yeah, it's just about the principle, not about the money.
Another level, let's turn off.
Whoa, what was that magic?
That was, I
Reveal hidden elements.
yeah, to see if he had another level, because what is
It really is what it looks like.
yeah. What's really confusing is it's at top of wall, and it should be top of wall, and you don't have an offset. So that's kind of what's confusing me.
Maybe in like a couple days it'll just fix itself.
I don't think
Well, then
so.
It'll just work itself out.
Yeah.
It tends to do
I
that.
can force it, right? I can say, let's give it a -3 offset, and then it goes down to top of wall. But really, we shouldn't need to do that because you don't have an offset built in. Let me look at your footprint here and see what's going on.
So yes, he has no offset, but for some reason it's putting his roof 3 feet above his top of wall.
There you go. So you did it. That's really weird. You did it in the sketch.
I did.
Yep. I don't remember that being an option before. Funny, I think that might be something new.
Oh.
So it just kind of looked like a hovering roof above
Huh.
the house. It was really cool looking, but
That's interesting.
not ideal for winter.
Not a good roof. Yeah.
Maybe a little drafty in the winter.
Little drafty. Wonderful for summer. Probably very nice for the breeze.
Which I've never had happen before. Funny enough.
Can we just leave these roofs away?
Thanks. We learned a bunch of new
I
things.
kinda like this.
I'm gonna fill up my water. I'll be right back. Give me 2 seconds.
House is so plain now.
That's right. That's how, I don't know, I think that's how we learn probably 80% of the stuff, banging our head against the wall and figuring out what's wrong, so.
There's way too many things to do.
I still gotta fix my windows.
Do you, get your flashlight, right? You want some, egress windows? To the basement? I'm sticking with mine. Just sticking with them?
I'm sticking with it, bud.
Logo. Project. Furniture.
All right. So we have our gable end or hip roof here, right? So that's what it looks like. If I don't like the slope of it, I can click on it, and here's my little grip, right? I can just click and drag it. That was kind of odd, huh? That's really a weird transformation that just happened. I wouldn't have expected that. But I can click and drag this up to wherever I wanted it to go, right? Mirza, you were asking that. So if I wanted to go there, I would just grab it, and it would make the slope whatever it needed to be to get wherever you were putting it, right? Now, if I don't like the slope and I want to change it to a specific increment, like 412, I can click on the roof, come over here to slope, and let's do 512, right? And it makes it a lot more steep, okay? But something I have to kind of pay attention to with that is that when I do that, it also gives it more height, right?
Yeah.
So if I go to my top of wall again, it may start cutting off again. If it gets too tall and I'd specified my cut plane at like 7'6", I might have to adjust that to keep it from not being cut off, okay? Yep.
Is there a way to change the ridge line on 3D?
You'd have to, you mean to alter this?
Yeah, or it just, we gotta work through the slopes, right?
Yeah. You'll have to work through the slopes. You have to go back into sketch mode and figure it out. Yeah. Or what? Yeah. Yep. Yep. All right. So here is our hip roof. We can change it, right? Everything looks good. What about when we want to do something like a gable end, right? Or alter the roof. If I click on it, I can hit edit footprint. Okay. To create a gable end, right? We all know hopefully what a gable end is. Let's Google that so that you... I think everybody knows what a gable end is. But this is a gable end, right? Where it's flat on one. Instead of having all of these come together like kind of a pyramid shape, right? Like a hip, we have a flat face right here. And there's no slope on that end, okay? So if I wanted to create a gable end like that, I would click on one, edge of my roof plane, and I would undefine the slope. Okay, so I click on that, I choose I uncheck define slope. Okay, by doing that, my slope indicator goes away because I've undefined the slope. I hit finish. Now when I go into 3D, there's my little gable. Okay. Let's make a gable end out of this side right here. Okay, I'm going to close that out. Click on my roof, hit edit footprint, click on this. I'm going to undefine it, click, finish. I'm going to go into 3D, and there's my gables. Now I've got these walls that don't go quite up to hit that gable, right? Looks kind of odd. If I click on this wall, I can choose attach top base, click, and I select the roof, click. Yeah.
Wait, what? That again.
Okay. I click on my wall, attach top base, click, and I select the object I want that wall to attach to, click. Best thing ever, right? Best thing ever. If I want to grab them all at the same time, I hover, tab, click, and I grab all the exterior walls at the same time, right? Attach top to base, click, and it brings them all up, right? So they all end up growing up there.
Oh my gosh. Because there's no Eve. See that?
What's that?
There's no like Eve. Like you were saying, there's no joist. So when you
Yes.
there's a separation.
There's a separation. Yep, exactly. Okay. Now, what's nice about that, I've taken these walls. So in the opposite direction, I say don't let your walls attach to like the bottom of a floor, right? But I've found that in general, it's okay if the top of your wall attaches to the roof, because you can move the roof up and down and it flexes pretty well. And very rarely do I ever have to detach my walls and take them from the roof, right? So if I needed to change this roof pitch from 512 to, let's do 712, enter. Oh, come on. Creating suspense. There we go, right? So the walls all just connected, okay? It's great, works really well. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. So let's talk about creating a single slope roof. Okay, so kind of like the roof that's actually going to be in the house, right? And I also want to talk about roofs with regard to assembly, right? Floors, roofs, walls, right? They all have an assembly attached with them. They all have a wall type, a floor type, or a roof type associated with them, okay? So of course, roofs are no different. So here, if I click on my roof and I look at my properties, right? This is a generic roof, 12 inches, okay? If I click on the down arrow, I can change that to the 18-inch generic, right? Or if I wanted to create something more specific, right? You're going to generate a roof type just like you would a floor type or a ceiling type, okay? Not ceiling type, floor type or wall type. I'm going to choose the one closest to what I want to have generate. So wood rafter maybe. Edit, duplicate, we'll just call this new roof, rename. and then we're going to edit the structure, right? So we're going to have our core boundary that has our structure in here. We're going to have a finish, right? Asphalt shingles. Maybe we can make this a little thicker. Maybe the wood is not 7.5, maybe it's 14 inches, right? We have sheathing above that, and we have the asphalt shingle. I hit OK, OK, and there's my new roof. Okay. I want to show you a section of this really quick because let me click on my section here. Click, click.
My house looks so cute.
It actually looks like a house, right? I'm going to click on my crop region and extend this up so that I can see my whole house there. Okay, so I can see my walls, right? They're coming up and they're connecting to my roof plane. I can see my roof plane. I don't see any trusses or anything like that. I don't actually see rafters. I just see a thickness that represents the roof. Okay. One thing you are going to notice in here is that these walls, they don't extend, the interior walls don't extend up to the roof, right? If you have a truss, you know, they're not going to go all the way up. But if you have like vaulted ceilings or you have some other type of situation where they would, you will have these interior walls extend up to the roof just the same way you did the exterior walls. So I would grab this wall, click, attach top base, click on the roof, and it extends up. Okay. I've seen some of you using the section box tool. When I'm in 3D, if I come over here to my properties dialog box, we have a section box tool right here. Click. And this region appears around my model. And if I click on it, I get grips on the top, the bottom, of all the sides. Okay. If I click over here and drag this in, this gives me a 3D kind of like on the fly visual of what's happening in my house, right? I think your success in Revit, it's really kind of determined by how you can view the model, how well you can view the model, right? And so this section box will allow me to drag this down, right, and view it without the roof, drag it down and see the basement if I want, right? And this is just a way of viewing the model. It doesn't actually cut it or change the geometry. It just allows you to view it, okay? So if I hit escape, I can uncheck the section box, click it back on again, and it resets, right? So that's worth the price of the software right there, isn't it? Maybe.
When we used to take, I gave my roof, I did all my walls to go up, but there's like a whole section that's not filling in.
Let's look.
Gables on that side. Is there a little section right there that's not?
Yes, because you have a wall there.
Okay, so I just do a partial.
Yeah, so you do a wall and I would do a base offset of like 90 feet or 80 feet and then just extend it up.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. All right, so let's do our single slope roof, just like the picture shows, right? This has a little shed roof on it, so let's do that. I'm going to turn my section region off here. Looks good. And I'm going to delete my roof. Well, actually, before I do that, sorry, let's talk about the roof plan real quick. I'm going to...
All this work.
like, I really like it. Don't make me delete it, right? Yes, it's probably not. So if I go to my roof plan, right, we're going to have to change our visual settings again because the roof views from the roof level up, right? So if you don't have any roof there, then you're not going to be able to see it, okay? But we want to be able to view the roof on the roof plane, or on the roof plan. So it's really somewhat deceiving, I feel like. So this is a visual view range setting again. I'm going to click on view range. The top of my view range, right? Let me just bring this back out here. The top of my view range can be my roof. Great. The bottom of my view range, I want to see the level below my roof, which will be top of wall. And this bottom has to be the same as the view depth, otherwise you get an error. Apply, okay, and that should do it. So click on your view range. Let me bring that back up again. And it's going to be your roof level will be the top, but the bottom and the view depth will be top of wall.
And interior elevation marker is coming through on the roof, so we just turn that off.
You have to go through your visual graphics, or you can just click on it, right click and hit hide in view or
Right.
yeah. Did it work? Oh, there we go. So this one's gonna be
Pretty.
top of wall. So you're gonna view the bottom below, the level below. Yep. And so is this one. Okay. Okay, one more thing for tonight and then we'll end. We'll just talk about how to create the shed roof. And we'll finish up roofs next time by talking about, we'll do shaft enclosures and we'll do some secondary type roofs, like if you have a gable intersecting your main roof, right? And how to cut openings in roofs, which is kind of a big topic. I'm going to delete this roof as much as it pains me. Oh, yeah, there we go. I'm hoping I didn't just delete some pieces of my model, actually. Okay, phew. Here we go. All right, so I can't see my model anymore. I'm going to turn on an underlay. Let's go to main level. There it is. And it looks like this piece, right? I have this single slope roof, and then I have a flat roof over here, low slope roof essentially, okay? The way that this is going to work is that I'm going to draw this roof, I'm going to draw it in a flat plane projection. So it's going to be, the outline of this piece of the home with, let's say we have maybe a 2-foot overhang, okay? And the way that we're going to define the slope on this is that this bottom plane that runs along the length of it, that will have a slope. So the way that these roofs work, right, is that if I have a slope that goes like this, right, this one is going to be defined with a slope, and the rest of them will have no slope attached to them. So the bottom is going to slope up, and the rest are going to have no slope, right? When I have one single sloped roof. What? Don't worry, it'll make sense in a second. Then this area over here has a flat roof, and we'll talk about that too. Okay, so I'm going to start by, I'm going to go to my top of wall, because that's where I'm going to want my roof to start generating, of course. So I go to top of wall, and I click on roof. Roof by.
Delete your roof?
I did. I deleted my roof. Yep. I'm going to.
We're doing footprint?
Roof by footprint. Yep. And I want to have a 2-foot overhang on this one. So I'll click on offset, and we'll make that 2 foot. Enter. There's my offset right there. And I'm going to click here. I'm going to click over here. Oop, I don't think I got it right. Let me do that again. 2-foot offset. Click. Click. Okay. I'm not doing this edge of the roof because it's going to be a different roof. I'm going to have 2 roof structures here.
Oh, man.
Right? Now in this case, this roof is going to slope from here up to there. Okay.
How did you get it to cut right there?
Cut right here.
Yeah.
I just drew a rectangle. I didn't draw the whole thing.
Oh, you did the rectangle.
Yeah. I gave it a 2-foot offset. Now the way that I'm going to work with the slope is I'm going to undefine this one, and this one. So those will not have a slope associated with them. I'll let you get caught up here on drawing it. Let's see, go to your, yep, and then here give it a 2-foot offset. There you go. And then you're going to click there, and you're going to click on that corner. There you go, click. Move down to that corner. Click. There you go.
Dang it.
All right, so now I'm going to click this edge, and this edge, and I'm going to come over here and undefine that slope. So these 3 lines now no longer define slope. All right, this edge will define slope, and that's maybe a 512, maybe a 612 roof. You think it's a 412? Yeah, could be 412. Okay, we'll do a 412. We'll see if you're right there. So undefined, 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 this one defined 412. Okay,
So,
roof number 1, I hit finish, go to 3D.
oh, I'm not even close to that. Slope,
Maybe
well,
this one is actually supposed to have roof up here.
What's that?
Okay.
Close, right?
Probably
3,
three.
yeah, it might even be 312. I was thinking that.
so,
But yeah, you undefine that one.
undefine that wall, undefine that wall.
Yeah, that looks better. I think it's 312, yep.
And then that one is already defined in triangle.
Okay,
There's my wall.
is it not working for you?
My first line disappeared.
Draw it again.
Oh, what?
Draw it again, people.
Is there a way to offset just 3 sides? Because it looks like it doesn't overhang the 2 feet over the flat roof.
Yeah, I think it's.
Oh, it totally does.
Oh, it does?
Yeah, it does,
Oh.
yeah.
So
Look at this.
down the interior,
Mhm.
we don't have a continuous wall to build up to this level. We're gonna have to fill in little pieces.
Well, yeah, you mean right here?
Well, between like say there and the kitchen,
Uh-huh,
right?
Yep.
You're gonna have to build in a little skin wall.
uh-huh. Yep, exactly. What's that? Just about. Just about. I know, it's late, I'm sorry. You guys actually do really well.
Have a half-hour class lab.
We're gonna fill it up. Okay, so let's take these walls and I'm gonna click, 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 click. So I've grabbed all those walls and I'm going to attach top base, click, click, and it attaches those to where they need to go. Now the question is, wait a minute, I don't have a piece of wall that continuously goes from there to there, right? So we'll talk about that in a second. Well, maybe we should do it now actually. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna go to my floor plan. This is a good little exercise, right? Okay. Here's what we need to do. So we need to take, I'm not going to generate a new wall type right now because I'm being lazy. But what we need to do is I'm going to grab this wall type, click on create similar. But instead of generating a wall from the main level up to, top of wall, I'm going to give this a base offset of like 8 feet. Okay. And I'm going to draw a wall that goes, I'm hoping it generates the correct way. I'm going to draw a wall from here all the way to here. And I can't see it because it has a base offset, right? But if I go into 3D, there it is right there. Oop, I need to flip the orientation of it.
Wait,
What?
okay.
It looks like it's a little short, right? You'd have to adjust the height of it and figure out where it needs to go. But essentially what I need to do is I need to bring this up and it's going to fill in that gap, right? But it doesn't, there's some back and forth with this, right? I didn't get it right the first time, so I kind of pulled it up a little bit. Now I'm going to use AL align, and I'm going to align this wall over here with the face of this one. So click, click, and they're aligned now. Okay, AL align, and I'm going to align, click, oop, did I get it? AL tab, the face of that wall with that wall. Maybe that's good enough. And my base offset I think needs to come up a little. They're kind of hanging down in the space, so we'll do 9-foot base offset. Brings it up a little bit. This is still not quite AL. I'm gonna try and align it with the face of that one. There we go. I need to do the same thing down here, AL. Let's see, right there, click, click. So there's some little finagling in there, right? And then I'm gonna grab this wall and attach top to base. You guys will have to watch the video on this one again, right?
What? No, totally.
This,
Got that.
you don't do this all the time, right? But it does come up every now and again where you have to,
So you would go to like top of wall view and build your wall on top of wall view?
you could, either way, yeah. I kind of, yes, you can. I kind of like to go to floor plan view just so I can see the whole picture of where all the walls fall, even though I'm not drawing on that level. Yeah. Okay, we're almost done. We're just tired. Okay, one more flat roof. Okay, and then we'll call it a day. I'm going to draw the flat roof here. I'm going to go to top of wall. And I'm going to go to wall again. Or not wall, sorry, roof. Roof by footprint. And I'm going to draw my roof by footprint. Now, this roof, right, let's give it a little overhang, like 6 inches. Okay. Don't do that, is that what you said?
No, I'm just.
Here's the thing with roofs. I have this roof that, you know, it kind of butts into the wall right there, right? I feel like it's in a, where I'm drawing it, it's in a pretty good spot. It looks like I've kind of brought it in maybe a little further than I need to, but I'm just going to leave it there. I don't mind if my roof somewhat overlaps my wall just a tiny bit, right? I just want to make sure that the whole thing actually goes where it needs to. Okay, flat roof, no slope at all, right? So I click, I hover, I tab click, and I'm going to undefine the slope on all 4 of those edges. I'm going to hit finish. And let's go into a 3D mode. Isn't that nice?
That's definitely not how my house looks.
Looks a little bit like a trailer, I think. It's kind of very narrow, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. We're almost done. You've only been here since noon, right? Okay. We'll stop there. So we have the pitched, we know how to do a hip roof, right? We know how to do the gable ends. We know how to do the single slope. We know how to do the flat, flat roof. I'm going to do a quiz at the very end. Just kidding. The flat roof. Okay. Next time, what we're going to do is we're going to do intersecting roofs. Okay. And we're going to learn how to cut holes in roofs. And we'll talk about shafts and how those interact. Okay. And then if we have some time, I think we'll get into probably stairs next. The assignment is the garage. So try that out. If you can't quite get it finished, then I'll answer any questions like on Monday and we'll assign our midterm. Okay, that is all. Go ahead. You're welcome.